Today on CTV News at 5, couple charged. A Raymond mother and father facing charges after their baby died. They blame the healthcare system. Fatality inquiry 3 years after a care home resident was discovered dead. An inquiry to find out what went wrong. And where were you 25 years ago when the Olympic cauldron was lit on the '88 Winter Games?
CTV News with Alyssa Carpenter.
Good afternoon and thanks for being with us. A public fatality inquiry is now underway into the death of a 50-year-old man who was found unresponsive outside of a senior's home back in November of 2010. The inquiry into the unexplained death of Douglas William Clegg, a resident of the Prairie Ridge Retirement Home in Raymond. Today, a family doctor testified Clegg, who was under treatment for schizophrenia, had complained of chest pains in the months prior to his death, but a variety of tests failed to show any signs of coronary artery disease or other heart conditions. An autopsy failed to determine the cause of death. 6 witnesses are expected to testify, including a medical examiner and a toxicologist. An Alberta psychiatrist jailed for 5 years has spent just 13 nights behind bars. Now Dr. Aubrey Levine is free on bail again. The disgraced former psychiatrist was convicted last month after a 4-month trial full of strange twists and delays. During sentencing, the judge admonished the 74-year-old doctor for preying on the vulnerable. She said Levine deserved an 8-year sentence, but because of his age and health, sentenced the doctor to 5 years. Today, an appeals court judge granted Levine interim bail because he plans to appeal his conviction. The appeals court has yet to determine if it will grant a new trial. The appeals court judge wants that decision made by October. RCMP and Cranbrook want you to take a good look at this next picture. It's a composite drawing of a man police say attacked a 74-year-old as he walked in Cranbrook. Police say the man was near 4th Street and 17th Ave when he noticed someone behind him following him. The man quickened his pace, but officers say the man was overtaken by his attacker, who punched him in the face. The assaults continued with repeated punches and kicks to the head. When the elderly man was able to get the attention of someone in a nearby home, he was dragged away and his assailant rifled through his pockets, then threatened to throw him into the frozen Joseph Creek to die.
It's something that's not typical for the city of Cranbrook, and it caught our attention as well. For an assault like this to happen prior to 6 o'clock, when it's not the night hours, is again, it's not usual for the city of Cranbrook.
And here is another look at the man police are looking for. He is described as a white man, about 6 feet tall, with short brown hair and a slim but muscular build. The assailant was unshaven but had stubble, was wearing a black jacket and a baseball cap. If you know who he is, you're asked to contact Cranbrook RCMP on the number on your screen, or you can call Crime Stoppers anonymously. A Lethbridge man's death is not suspicious. Police say the 62-year-old died in a house fire over the weekend, and it's not suspicious. But there is a critical element that they are warning the public to be aware of. Jeanette Roche has those details.
Too many flames, too few resources, and all within a couple of weeks. The Van Harlem rooming house, where 25 people lost their home and a piece of Lethbridge's history was reduced to rubble. Then over the weekend, one family is faced with over $250,000 in damage to their home, and in the London Road district, a man loses his life inside his residence.
There was an occupant found deceased in the residence, and from that point on, we continued our investigation.
62-year-old Alexander McKenzie was the lone occupant of the home. His body was transported to the medical examiner's office in Calgary, where an autopsy was completed yesterday. Police say foul play has been ruled out. Fire investigators determined the fire originated in the back living room of the main floor where the victim was found. However, the exact cause cannot be determined.
What we know, though, and one of the very critical points, is there was no working smoke alarm on that floor of the fire, so there was no way a smoke alarm would have activated in the event of this fire, alerting occupants or neighbors that there was a fire in the structure.
And unfortunately, it's all too common that these little life-saving devices aren't so commonly found in the aftermath of a fire.
We want to make sure people know that they have a working smoke alarm on every level of their home, and at very least outside their sleeping areas, so that they know there is a fire in their home. That will alert you quickly within minutes of the fire starting, and you can escape and get out of the structure.
The city's last fire fatality was January 2011, but firefighters say that's too soon. They'd like to see those numbers drop to zero and stay that way. And one of the best ways to do that is to remind everyone to be prepared before it's too late. Jeanette Roche, CTV News, Lethbridge.
Fire prevention officers recommend changing your smoke alarm batteries twice a year. And the dry conditions are only contributing to more fires, like this grass fire west of the city. Both Lethbridge and Colehurst fire departments were called to help snuff out this blaze near the CP rail tracks east of Highway 3. It was contained before it could spread to a nearby subdivision in Colehurst. Residents are reminded to be mindful of the dry conditions in southern Alberta. And Dory joins us with our first look at the forecast. And Dory, a pretty nice long weekend, if you don't mind a tiny bit of snow.
Yeah, we're looking at one day, and you'll see that on the 5-day forecast, where we're expecting some light scattered snow, but don't cancel your weekend plans because the other 2 days are looking pretty nice. I'll have all the details coming up in a couple of minutes.
All right, thanks very much, Dory. The parents of a southern Alberta child who died last March are now facing charges. A Glenwood area couple, 29-year-old David Steffen and his 32-year-old wife Colette, have been charged with failing to provide the necessities of life following a lengthy RCMP investigation into the death of their 19-month-old son Zeke. But family members say they're baffled by these charges, which are causing them to relive their nightmare. Terry Vogt reports.
It's just a really tragic situation.
Anthony Steffen says he can't understand why RCMP and Crown prosecutors are proceeding with charges almost a year after the death of his 19-month-old grandson, Zeke. He describes Zeke's parents, David and Colette, as responsible, loving parents who were raising two happy young boys when Zeke developed what everyone in the family thought to be the croup.
We didn't see the fact that apparently he had meningitis.
RCMP say their investigation led officers to believe Zeke became ill in February of 2012. On March 13th, he stopped breathing and paramedics were called. Zeke was flown to the Alberta Children's Hospital, where he died 5 days later. David and Colette Steffen have issued a one-page statement outlining the tragic details of Zeke's death. In it, they say, our 19-month-old son came down with a slight flu-like illness. The statement goes on to say, like any other good parents, we attended to the matter and treated him accordingly to the standard practices and recommendations, like millions of parents do each year. They say over a number of days, Zeke appeared to be doing much better, but less than an hour before his passing, he quickly began to regress.
And then that call came around 8 o'clock at night. And he said, Dad, he's having trouble breathing. And I said, call 911 right away.
But the Steffens say instead of sending an ambulance from Glenwood a few minutes away, it came from Cardston, 40 minutes from their home. The parents met EMS on the highway, but say the ambulance wasn't equipped with the correct intubation equipment for their son, who was no longer breathing on his own.
But he was a wonderful little guy. I mean, this is very, very painful for all of us as family members. Nobody would want to see this happen. It's terrifying.
Anthony Steffen says a lot of things went wrong that led to the death of his grandson, but he can't understand what'll be gained by charging Zeke's parents and forcing the family to relive the nightmare. Terry Vogt, CTV News, Raymond.
David and Colette Steffen are scheduled to appear in court in Lethbridge on May 23rd. Coming up, we take a look back at 1988. First, though, here are today's market numbers.